A student's overview of the ageless wisdom was carefully compiled from the following books by Alice A. Bailey. A Treatise on Cosmic Fire. Esoteric Psychology, Volumes 1 and 2. Esoteric Healing. Esoteric Astrology. The Rays and the Initiations. Students are encouraged to download the free PDF version of this overview by following the link in the video's description, or to order a printed copy at cost from thebookpatch.com, but are advised to read the original, unabridged books in order to gain deeper insight into the ageless wisdom. Students are also invited to join our online study group at facebook.com/groups/students of the ageless wisdom. Chapter 49, Esoteric Healing. Causes arising in the etheric body. It will be wise for you to bear in mind that I am not here going to deal with those causes which, producing effects in the physical body, arise in the mind or in the astral body. Necessarily they pass through the etheric body. The etheric body is a transmitter of all energies to the physical body, and all types of force pass through it to different parts of the physical form, producing good and bad results, negative or positive results, as the case may be. This is a fact which we accept. I am here considering the diseases, problems and physical difficulties which arise in the etheric body itself and work out in its relations to the physical body. These are quite widespread and usual. It is essential that you keep these two lines of force activity clearly differentiated in your mind. Both pass through and from the etheric body into the physical body, but only one of them originates in or is concerned with difficulties which have an etheric origin. The etheric body is a body composed entirely of lines of force and of points where these lines of force cross each other and thus form, in crossing, centers of energy. Where many such lines of force cross each other, you have a larger center of energy, and where great streams of energy meet and cross, as they do in the head and up the spine, you have 7 major centers. There are 7 such, plus 21 lesser centers and 49 smaller centers known to the esotericists. However, we will confine ourselves at this time to the etheric body as a whole and to the 7 major centers. It might be of interest to you, nevertheless, to be told where the 21 minor centers are to be found. They can be located at the following points. There are 2 of them in front of the ears close to where the jaw bones are connected. There are 2 of them just above the 2 breasts. There is one where the breast bones meet, close to the thyroid gland. This, with the 2 breast centers, makes a triangle of force. There are 2, one each in the palms of the hands. There are 2, one each in the soles of the feet. There are 2, just behind the eyes. There are 2 also connected with the gonads. There is one close to the liver. There is one connected with the stomach. It is related, therefore, to the solar plexus, but is not identical with it. There are 2 connected with the spleen. These form one center in reality, but such a center is formed by the 2 being superimposed one on the other. There are 2, one at the back of each knee. There is one powerful center which is closely connected with the vagus nerve. This is most potent and is regarded by some schools of occultism as a major center. It is not in the spine, but is no great distance from the thymus gland. There is one which is close to the solar plexus, and relates it to the center at the base of the spine, thus making a triangle of the sacral center, the solar plexus, and the center at the base of the spine. The two triangles referred to in this tabulation are of real importance. One is above and the other below the diaphragm. It is of course apparent that where there is a free flow of force through the etheric body into the dense physical body, there will be less likelihood of disease or sickness. There may, however, be increased tendency to difficulties arising from overstimulation and its consequent results of overactivity of the nervous system, with all the attendant problems. These forces, seeking inlet into the dense vehicle, are emanations from three directions. 1. From the personality vehicles, the astral and mental bodies. 2. From the soul, if contact, recognized or unrecognized, has been established. 3. From the environing world to which the vehicles of the soul and of the personality have acted as doors of entrance. Incidentally, in connection with this last phrase, I would call your attention to a possible relation between these doors of entrance and the phrase door of initiation. End of page 251. In the case where these centers, through which the inflowing energy from these sources of supply flow, are quiescent, unawakened or only functioning partially or too slowly, as far as their vibratory rhythm is concerned, then you will have a condition of blocking. This will produce congestion in the etheric vehicle, and consequent and subsequent difficulties in the functioning of the physical body. One of the most common of these is congestion of the lungs, which, though it may be exoterically traced to certain and definite physical causes, is in reality those causes, plus an inner condition of etheric congestion. It is the bringing together of the outer apparent cause and the apparent inner true cause which is responsible for the outbreak of the trouble. When these two conditions are brought into conjunction with each other, and you have a physical handicap and an etheric situation which is undesirable, then you will have disease, illness, or weakness of some kind. Every outer congestion can always be traced to these two causes, an inner and an outer cause. In these cases, the outer cause is not an effect of the individual inner cause, which is interesting. You will note, therefore, that all ills are not purely subjective or psychological in origin as far as an individual is concerned, but are sometimes both exoteric and esoteric. Hence the complication of the problem. The above statement opens up the whole question of the activity of the 7 centers of force in the etheric body. These can be regarded as dormant or unawakened, awakening but only as yet sluggishly alive, or functioning normally, which means that some of the energies which produce the form of the center are moving rhythmically, and are therefore receptive to inflow, while others are still entirely inactive and unresponsive. Other centers will be fully active, and therefore predominantly attractive to any inflowing forces. Still others will be only partially so. For the majority of people, the centers below the diaphragm are more active than those above the diaphragm. I am referring here to the 7 major centers and not to the 21 minor centers. For aspirants, centers below the diaphragm are active and the heart and throat centers are slowly coming into activity, while in the case of disciples, the ajna center, plus those centers below it in the body, are rapidly awakening. In the initiate, the head center is coming into vibrant activity, thus swinging all the centers into real and coordinated rhythm. Each patient or human being on some ray, responds differently, the time factor also differs, the pattern of the unfoldment varies, and the response to the inflowing forces is slightly differentiated. Congestion. Much real difficulty can be traced to congestion or to the lack of the free play of the forces. In this connection, it might be pointed out that the etheric body is a mechanism for intake and for outlet. There is consequently a curious and intimate relation between it and such organs as the lungs, the stomach, and the kidneys. There is no symbol so relatively accurate to the whole creative process as the human frame. The symbology here present, when correctly understood, will tend to show that there is a deep underlying esoteric relation between the mind and the lungs. The process of breathing, with its stages of inhalation, the interlude, and exhalation, works out in connection with both aspects of force, mental and physical. The desire nature and the stomach. Here again is the process of intake, of assimilation, and of elimination. The etheric body itself and the kidneys, with the processes clearly defined in both cases of absorption, chemicalization, and transmission. Congestion in the etheric body, producing much distress in the physical body, can exist. Therefore, at the point of intake from the astral body or from the astral plane, note the phrasing and the difference, or at the point of outlet, in relation to the center to which the particular type of etheric force most easily flows and through which it most easily passes. Where there is no free play between the etheric body and the astral body, you will have trouble. Where there is no free play between the etheric body and the physical body, involving also the nerve ganglia and the endocrine system, you will also have trouble. The close relation between the 7 major centers and the 7 major glands of the physical system must never be forgotten. The two systems form one close interlocking directorate, with the glands and their functions determined by the condition of the etheric centers. These, in their turn, are conditioned by the point in evolution and gained experience of the incarnate soul, by the specific polarization of the soul in incarnation, and by the rays, personality and soul, of the man. Forget not that the 5 aspects of man, as he functions in the 3 worlds, are determined by certain ray forces. You have the ray of the soul, the ray of the personality, and the rays of the mental, the astral and the physical bodies. End of page 252. Lack of coordination and integration. We come now to a brief consideration of our second point of difficulty to be found in the etheric body, which in our tabulation we have called lack of coordination or integration. This is exceedingly prevalent today and is responsible for a good deal of trouble. The etheric body is the inner substantial form upon which the physical body is built or constructed. It is the inner scaffolding which underlies every part of the whole outer man, it is the framework which sustains the whole, it is that upon which the outer form is patterned, and it is the network of nadis, infinitely intricate, which constitutes the counterpart or the duplicate aspect of the entire nervous system which forms such an important part of the human mechanism. It is thus definitely, with the bloodstream, the instrument of the life force. If, therefore, there is weakness in the relation between this inner structure and the outer form, it will be immediately apparent to you that real difficulty is bound to supervene. This difficulty will take 3 forms. 1. The physical form in its dense aspect is too loosely connected with the etheric form or counterpart. This leads to a devitalized and debilitated condition, which predisposes man to sickness or ill health. 2. The connection is poor in certain directions or aspects of the equipment. Through certain focal points or centers the life force cannot adequately flow, and therefore you have a definite weakness in some part of the physical body. For instance, impotence is such a difficulty and a tendency to laryngitis is another, to mention two widely different disorders. 3. The connection can also be so basically loose and poor that the soul has very little hold upon its vehicle for outer manifestation, and obsession or possession is easily established. This is an extreme example of the difficulties incident to this condition. Others are certain forms of fainting or loss of consciousness and petit mal. There are also, as will be apparent, the exactly reverse conditions when the etheric body is so closely knit or integrated with the personality, whether it is of a highly evolved nature or simply an example of an ordinary etheric body, that every part of the physical body is in a constant condition of stimulation, of galvanic effort, with a resultant activity in the nervous system which, if not correctly regulated, can lead to a great deal of distress. It is to this that I refer in the third heading, overstimulation of the centers. Overstimulation of the centers. There is much that I could add to what I have said on the cause of disease arising in the etheric body, but in part 2, I shall elaborate the theme much further. Congestion, lack of integration and overstimulation of the centers are obviously fundamental causes as far as the dense physical body is concerned, but they themselves are frequently effects of subtler causes, hidden in the life of the astral and mental bodies and, in the case of overstimulation, the result sometimes of soul contacts. The etheric body reacts normally, and by design, to all the conditions found in the subtler vehicles. It is essentially a transmitter and not an originator, and it is only the limitations of the observer which lead him to ascribe the causes of bodily ills to the etheric body. It is a clearing house for all the forces reaching the physical body, provided the point in evolution has brought the various force centers to a condition wherein they are receptive to any particular type of force. Esoterically speaking, the centers can be in one of 5 conditions or states of being. These can be described in the following terms. 1. Closed, still and shut, and yet with signs of life, silent and full of deep inertia. 2. Opening, unsealed, and faintly tinged with color, the life pulsates. 3. Quickened, alive, alert in 2 directions, the 2 small doors are open wide. 4. Radiant and reaching forth with vibrant note to all related centers. 5. Blended they are and each with each works rhythmically. The vital force flows through from all the planes. The world stands open wide. It should be remembered that the etheric body of the human being is an integral part of the etheric body of the planetary logos and is, therefore, related to all forms found within that body in any and all the kingdoms in nature. It is part of the substance of the universe, coordinated with planetary substance, and hence provides the scientific basis for unity. End of page 253. The etheric body of the planet does not yet freely transmit and circulate the forces which are seeking entrance into the consciousness and the expression of man upon the physical plane. These forces emanate from within himself as he functions on the subtler levels of consciousness and from the soul, they come also from associated and contacted groups, from the planetary life, and eventually, in the last analysis, from the entire universe. Each of the centers can, when fully awakened and consciously and scientifically employed, serve as an open door through which awareness of that which lies beyond the individual human life can enter. The etheric body is fundamentally the most important response apparatus which man possesses, producing not only the right functioning of the five senses and consequently providing five major points of contact with the tangible world, but it also enables a man to register sensitively the subtler worlds, and, when energized and controlled by the soul, the spiritual realms stand wide open also. There is much need today for the study of the following problems. 1. The problem of the right reception of force through the appropriate center. An instance of this might be found in the correct control of the solar plexus center as the one in which astral sensitivity can be registered and properly handled. 2. The problem of the right relation of a particular center to its related gland, permitting the free play of the force pouring through the center to the allied glandular correspondence, thus conditioning its peculiar hormone and eventually conditioning the bloodstream. If you grasp this sequence of contact, you will understand more clearly the occult significance of the words in the Old Testament that the blood is the life. It is the vitality coming from the etheric body which works through into the bloodstream, via the center which is responsive to one of the 7 peculiar types of force, and its allied gland. It will be apparent, therefore, that there is a close relation between a. The etheric body as a transmitter of a vast aggregate of energies and forces. b. The endocrine system whose various glands are in reality the externalization or materialization of the centers, major and minor. c. The heart, which is the center of life as the brain is the center of consciousness. From the heart, the blood circulates and is controlled. Thus these 3 great systems are related. d. The entire glandular system to the nervous system through the medium of the network of nerves and the nadis which underlie this network. These nadis are the threads of life force which underlie every part of the body and particularly the nervous system in all its aspects. 3. The interrelation which must be established between all the centers, permitting the free play of force in correct rhythm throughout the physical vehicle. You have, therefore, certain great interlocking directorates which control or fail to control the physical body. Where there is lack of control, it is due to the failure to establish right relations within the body, or to lack of development. These interlocking groups are a. That of the etheric body, which works primarily through its 7 major centers but also through many other centers. b. That of the endocrine system, which works primarily through the 7 major glandular groups, but also through many other less important glands. c. That of the nervous system, the sympathetic and the cerebrospinal, with a peculiar emphasis laid upon the vagus nerve with its effect upon the heart and consequently upon the bloodstream. End of page 254. Lack of vitality and the common subnormal conditions with which we are so familiar indicate the inertia of the etheric body and its lack of vitality. The results of this inertness of the vital body can be both physical and psychological, because the glands in the physical body will not function normally and, as is well known, they condition the physical expression of man as well as his emotional and mental states, insofar as those are able or not able to find expression through the medium of the physical vehicle. The glands do not condition the inner man or his states of consciousness, but they can and do prevent those inner states finding manifestation outwardly. In the reverse situation, too powerful an etheric body and the overstimulation of the centers concerned may put too great a strain upon the nervous system and produce, as a consequence, definite nervous trouble, migraine, mental and emotional imbalance and, in some cases, lead to insanity. I have elaborated this matter somewhat because the relation of the etheric body to the physical body and its receptivity to the inner energies most decidedly condition the man. It will be necessary for us to have this ever in mind as we study the causes of the diseases arising in the mental body, or due to the activity of the soul in the life of the disciple, or as we investigate the processes whereby a man is prepared for initiation. The etheric body must always, and invariably does, act as the transmitting agent of the inner energies to the outer plane, and the physical body has to learn to respond to and recognize that which is transmitted. The effectiveness of the transmission and the resultant physical activity depend always upon the centers, which, in their turn, condition the glands. These, later, determine the nature and the expressed consciousness of the man. If the centers are awakened and receptive, there will be found a physical apparatus which will be responsive to the forces flowing through. If the centers are asleep, and thus little force can be transmitted, you will find a physical apparatus which will be equally slow and unresponsive. If the centers below the diaphragm are awakened and those above are not, you will have a man whose consciousness will be focused in the animal and the emotional natures, and much of his physical disease will lie below the diaphragm also. End of chapter 49.